This is the Loose Pass Rugby Podcast, only on Megaphone Rugby.
Welcome back to the Loose Pass Rugby Podcast. I speak to you, Griffin, on a regular basis about this and that and the other, mostly rugby, sometimes not. And today will be no exception. Welcome back, you.
Hello. Happy Wednesday, Ember. How's your IQ this week?
I just said to you, I've inhaled so many paint fumes this past week. My IQ is lower than low. I don't think I've got any IQ left, I must be honest. I think I'm seeing double at the moment. So if I make any gaffes, forgive me.
Okay, fair enough.
Right, let's start with our usual jersey. I can see it's blue, and I assume that the stripes and everything, that's got to be something to do with France.
It is. It's a France jersey this week. So this is 2012/2013 season France jersey made by Adidas. It's got lots of things that I like about it. I like the stripes. This is quite unique. The kind of stripes on the front of the jersey with the tricolour of the French flag incorporated. I really like the badge. The badge seems like it has a kind of very old school vibe. Not old school as in the company, just old school as in old school.
Retro almost.
Yeah, it's almost like pre-war with the choice of the colours and things. I really like that. And apart from that, there's nothing else really on it. It fits very well. I really like the design of the collar with the white and then
does your head fit through it?
Yeah, my head fits through it, our normal sized European heads. And yeah, I just enjoy it. And I know that people will be thinking, Springboks are playing France next. That must mean that I'm on France's side. And of course, the truth of the matter is I'm always on everybody's side. So yeah, it has been quite funny seeing all of the Springbok fans on social media turn their attentions to France this week and get geared up for that one.
I'm going to teach you a new Afrikaans word.
What's that?
Draadsitter.
Draadsitter.
And I'll give you a clue. Draad means wire or fence in Afrikaans. And the sitter is a sitter. You're sitting on the fence, yeah.
Oh, right.
So, draadsitter, there you go. It's not a very complimentary term, I must be honest.
Well, I
know you have to be neutral and all that, but I thought after this Twickenham experience...
I don't have to be neutral, I just am.
I know that, but why would you choose to be neutral if you can be supporting the world champions back to back, for that matter, and double world back to back Tri-Nations or Rugby Championship winners? But okay, so everybody to himself. Transfer rumors, not many this week. I just read that Deon Bluler from the Sharks are going to be joining Gloucester. Not much there. And you said something about some obscure Stormer joining Scarlets. Is it really scraping the bottom of the barrel here or what?
The Scarlets have got an injury crisis going on in the second row, which was completely predictable because we only had 4 senior locks on our books to start the season. So lo and behold, a couple got injured and now we're in a crisis. So we signed a couple of guys, and one of them for a South African interest is a guy called Alex Groves. Played for the Stormers in the Currie Cup, just gone. He's still on the Stormers books. He's only joined for a loan, I assume, whilst we're in South Africa, because we're playing Lions and Sharks next. Apparently he played for England under-20s because his dad is English, but he's back down in South Africa now.
Oh. So I'll be honest, I've never heard of him. It's neither here nor there, but I understand that the Lions did something similar this week. They went and borrowed a couple of players from the Griquas, 3 players from Griquas, and 1 from the Bulls. Also front row stocks, interestingly enough, and then a lock. Which is an indication of a similar crisis there. And I think the Lions, in the bigger scheme of things, are backfiring now. They played the UFC players in the Currie Cup to make sure they win it this year. And they lost it again to a kick after the Hooter. And now the injuries are catching up like we predicted. That's exactly what we said was going to happen. Luckily for them, they have the Griquas buttons to press. But I know that the Griquas coach, Peter Berg, is not keen on lending them past the 1st of January because he wants to start preparing for the local tournaments, SA Cup and the like. So that's one of the reasons why the Bulls didn't get George Whitehead, by the way, because the Griquas didn't want to let him go after the 1st of January. In the fly-off, we'll cover a fly-off where we know the Bulls are a little thin. We're also struggling with injuries this early in the season.
I don't know. I only pay attention to my own team. I don't know who else has got injuries. Probably Munster will have an injury crisis any moment soon. Apart from that, I don't know.
Well, that's it. I saw Ulster, people talking about Ulster being such a good team and such a tough team, but also having a lack of depth. So let's talk about the URC last week and the Bulls getting an absolute hiding at Ulster. And what grated the Bulls supporters a lot was the fact that the coach apparently said after the match that they almost laughed at the Bulls' effort. They were sort of out-muscled, out-bullied. And if you want to wave a red flag in front of a Bull supporter, you tell them that somebody was more physical than our team. And that seems to have been the case. What did you think of that game?
Yeah, well, Ulster have a big team, as we talked about last week. They've got a big, particularly backline, a lot of physicality there with Stu McCuskey, Jacob Stockdale, and things. I think, do you know what it is? I think it was just one of those games where there was that much to go wrong for the Bulls that it just did. Like your first game up north, still early days under Ackermann. You brought in all the Springboks, so you brought in Andre after, one training session. Players coming back in from the Springbok camp. Up in Belfast, away from home, tough place to go, very different to South Africa, up against a team that was motivated, that had a week's rest because their game last week was cancelled. So they were very fresh. They've just been focusing on you for over a week. And I just think that you're a team in transition and you're going to get results like this. So I wouldn't panic. I would say that it's just one of those where everything that could go wrong did. Of course, the stat that's going around, of course, is 99 points conceded in the first 3 games, which isn't good enough, clearly, although you did win 2 of those. So I would say, not panic stations yet. I would say give it half a season before it's panic stations. But I think you're going to get results like this. Yeah, like I said, you're a team in transition.
Andre Pretorius is doing an analysis for us, and he already showed me a couple of things that make my hair stand on end, which we'll publish later this week.
Well, if it's easy things like that, where you can clearly look at it and go, this guy is supposed to do this and didn't do it, then it's fixable. If it's just an easy fix, then in 2 games' time, you might never see that problem again.
Yeah.
So long as you never see, it's a long season, the club season. So if you see issues once, as long as you don't see them again, then it's okay.
We've seen them 3 games in a row now, and it's not an issue of the defense structure, the defense plan, the way, nothing. It's how the players execute, and the players are not doing what they're told to do. And Andre pointed it out very clearly to me. Make sure that you watch that video. There's a problem with the players in the Bulls team. I'm telling you now, the tail is wagging the dog after that coup d'etat where they got rid of Jake. And I think the players need to be whipped back into shape. And I'm going to get crucified at Loftus for saying this, but that's my feeling at the moment.
Well, I can see it. I can certainly see that if the players think, I don't know this, but if the players think we've gotten rid of one coach, we are the ones who rule this town, then I can see how that would set in. Yes.
Yeah, I'll be watching it. So this weekend they're playing Connacht. Under Stuart Lancaster, Johan's got a lot of things to say, good things about Stuart Lancaster. I told you that before. But Connacht went and lost against Cardiff last weekend. So what can we expect for the Bulls this weekend?
Yeah, in an absolute thriller. I think it was 7-3 until the last 10 minutes.
Look, you think because you fell asleep or what?
I didn't even watch it. I was busy doing something else. But Cardiff have had a very good start to the season. I think they'll be very happy with 2 home wins from 2, obviously 2 from 3, and 2 losing bonus points out in Munster. I think they'll go, yes, we would have taken this all day long in terms of result. Obviously, Tom Bowen, being their winger, has scored 5 tries in something like that. 5 tries in his last 2 games, something like that. If there are any Cardiff fans watching this, feel free to correct me. So Cardiff, I would say, are probably doing better than we all expected. But I would say I'm not drawing any conclusions just yet. Connacht, I would say probably they had a good result in round 1, beating Benetton. They had their second game cancelled due to the storm, and then they've lost this game. So I would say we don't have enough data on them yet. They've only played 2 games.
Harry's been going on about how slow Jan Serfontein is. And he posted something today that said, the clash of the 2 glacial icebergs, Jan Serfontein and Bundy Aki.
Does he think Bundy Aki's going to play? That would be interesting. Normally, Bundy Aki only plays 3 times a year for Connacht.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But if he plays, is there any merit to that? Are they really that slow?
Well, Jan Serfontein managed to find his way to the try line in round 1 against the Ospreys, didn't he?
Desperately looking for someone to offload to, but yes.
I don't think Bundy's that slow, to be honest. But, it's club rugby and there, you can get away with these things.
Yeah, you're right. There's more space. There's more time. I'm interested to see that. I'm actually quite happy that Keegan Johannes is back at fly off. I'd like to see what he can actually do when he gets given a nice head of steam or full reins for a while. Let's talk about the Stormers. And it's been grating me how upset, what's the word, happy Harry is, and going on and on about the Stormers being can they ever be beaten again? And I tried to give some context here. So listen, Harry's been 3 victories, yes, 35-0 to Leinster, yes, but 2 Welsh teams in a row. I mean, don't get ahead of yourself here. And all he's saying to me is, watch this weekend. I mean, this weekend is going to be zebra. Honestly, if the Stormers lose this one, that would be surprised the century. But are the Stormers really that good, or was it just the opposition being worse than the others?
I thought they played okay against the Scarlets. I thought the Scarlets were absolutely terrible. Obviously, they're my team, so I can say that. That's as bad as we've played that I can remember. We were all like Scarlets fans talking. We were complaining about the ref. Obviously, we don't do ref bashing on this podcast, but we were very unhappy with the referee. And then we got the ball. We had a line out in their 22, and we dropped it immediately. And I was like, boys, we finally managed to get a penalty awarded to us instead of against us, and then we go and do that. And we would to get nilled at home is absolutely unacceptable for any team at any level. I don't care who you're playing against. I can show you Namibia against the All Blacks at Rugby World Cups have scored a try. So getting nilled at home in a club match is just completely unacceptable. And I think that everybody who went to that game should get a refund. The Stormers were okay. Obviously, their pack is very good. They obviously took Harry's criticism very seriously at the end of last season when he said they had a bad scrum, and they are now scrummaging well. To be fair, the Stormers players, they're not all household names at the moment. Obviously, they do have the big names in there, but outside of Stormers land, you might not have heard of many of these players, respectfully, but they all seem to be performing. I still don't necessarily see repeatable processes in their tries, but they're scoring them. And if you've got a good set piece and if you've got a good fly half, which fair play, obviously we know Sasha and the guy behind him as well, Matea. I think that's how you say it.
Yuri Matea.
Matea. He's played well as well when he's been given the chance. So, a scrum and a 10, and you're halfway there, aren't you?
I asked Jake last year why can't we sign Yuri Matea, because I was quite impressed with him in the Currie Cup. Quite big, strappy young guy, physical, got a good boot on him. And that was when Goosen was also injured. And he was I was talking to the agent, so nothing ever came of it. And he's also always going to play second fiddle to Sasha. But I want to talk to you about the Stormers' defense. I mean, 2 games they nilled the opposition. And one of the other things that he was taking the Stormers to task last season for was their defense, or leaky defense. And then he reckons that Norman Laker, who's the defense coach, and actually was apparently in line to maybe join England as a defense coach, they've seriously stepped up their game. Well, once again, I want to ask you the same question. Is the defense as good as they say it is? Or was it just a case of kind of mediocre opposition? And put Leinster into context for me there as well.
The Leinster game's weird. I almost kind of want to discount it as an outlier at this stage. If we gather more data and it aligns more with the more data that we gather in the future, then we'll bring it back in. But then if you go Ospreys and Scarlets, look, at Cape Town, the Stormers are always going to be a completely different kettle of fish. And the Scarlets, like I said, were absolutely abysmal. Now, Scarlets actually ended up having more of the possession in the game, but by that time we were already like 3 scores down by the time we started getting more possession, so the Stormers didn't really have to worry about it. They completely changed how they play. My rule is that if a team goes 3 scores down in a game, all analysis goes out the window because both teams completely change how they play if there's a 3-score margin in it. One team, takes the foot off the throttle, one team just starts throwing the ball around. I would say that the Stormers are playing the game in the right areas, though. I would say in the games that I've watched them so far, they tend to play all of their possession in the opposition half. They really limit opposition opportunities. They really disrupt the opposition platforms, which I think is a big thing. And they seem to be getting on the right side of the referees at ruck time. I think that the rucks in the URC in the games that I've watched so far have been quite lawless, I'll be honest. But the Stormers seem to be reacting to that the best. So you have to compliment them on that. So, it'll be interesting seeing these next 2 games because they go to Italy. Now, in days gone by, Amvea, back in the bad old days, a trip to Italy was 2 guaranteed bonus point wins. No more. I think the game against Benetton will be a great watch. They've managed to get themselves together after a slow start out in Connacht. Zebra started the season with 2 wins, 2 well-earned wins, obviously beat the Lions and Edinburgh. But then they changed 12 players for their trip to Bridgend to play the Ospreys. And the Ospreys didn't get a try bonus point against them. Nilled them, but didn't get a try bonus point, which I think the Ospreys will be disappointed about. But I think it's a good test. And I think, to be fair, logistically wise, having 2 games in Italy, I think that's nice. I think that's a nice little trip. It'll be a bit warmer than if they were in the URC, but I worked it out. We've talked about this last week, I think. Sasha will have played a game in London with the Boks, then 3 URC games in the north. Then he'll be in the Boks squad for the 5 autumn games that goes to the first weekend of December. And then there's 2 Stormers games in the north after that. So Sasha's going to be in the north for the whole of October and for the whole of November.
Yeah, that's happened to the Bulls last year. They were there for 9 weeks, some of the Bulls players. One of them had a baby. That's quite tough. I remember Jake. And that's actually also when Jake made that controversial comment about Kane and Moody maybe going at the buffet too much. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those.
That's a funny one, isn't it, with the Bulls? With David Kriel. What's the deal with him? Is he good or is he not?
I think he's good. Depends on his position. I don't think he's a wing. I think he's a good 13 or a good 12 for that matter. But I see a lot of people are saying that he should be a 15. And he's played 15 before for the Bulls. What do you think?
I don't know. Not last season, but the season before, he was top of the URC for try involvements, tries and assists. And he crosses the try line with regularity. He's playing in a top 2 URC team. It seems to be relatively durable, but doesn't even look close to getting a Springbok call. So maybe he's just a good club player.
I don't know. I just think the pantry is quite full if it comes to centers and the likes. You've got, Kane and Moody seems to be now the Crown Prince in the 13 and the likes. And a couple of other good centers in South Africa as well. Inke van Wyk, Trenzo Julius. Lucanio Arm is still lurking around. So where does he fit in?
I think you've got some opportunities this November. I keep wanting to call it autumn, but then remember it's not autumn for you guys. These November tests, the Northern Tour, if you're playing against Wales, Japan, and Italy, I think those are opportunities to experiment. So maybe give him a chance there, especially if he's up north with the Bulls anyway.
Yeah,
maybe
but he hasn't been to
play,
one camp that I'm aware of. I mean, Russ is adamant about those alignment camps, no?
Yeah. So that's the funny thing, isn't it? Is that he's a guy performing week in, week out for one of the best club sides in the world, not getting a chance. Just one of them, I guess.
And he can kick at posts. Not always that good, but he can kick if he needs to. Post kicker. Interesting. It's an interesting point.
Does he have a Welsh gran?
If you had, I'm going to just bury that right now. I'm telling you right now. Listen, I want to just digress a little bit about, you talked about scrums and it set my mind in a certain direction about the French now starting to referee the put-ins in the scrums, that you have to put it in properly. What's that about?
Yeah, apparently Romain Poit and Mathieu Reynal, who are in charge of refereeing in France, has said, no, we want straight feet at the scrum. This comes around every few years, doesn't it? That they go, no, this year we're bothered about the feet at the scrum. And they go, oh, no, we don't really care, actually. We thought about it. Yeah. Yeah, and they are doing it. And there was a lot of press in France around the weekend of how Stade Francais shoved La Rochelle off their own ball at scrum time. It was very exciting. And yeah, so they decided that they're doing that. I guess it gets back to one for the purists, which the French kind of are about rugby, to be fair to them. They don't really do gimmicks, the French. They are quite pure about their rugby. So, yeah, I guess they've decided, and they're tweaking a couple of other laws. And it's interesting to see a union take it into control themselves instead of waiting for World Rugby to tell them what to do. For a union to say, no, we're going to do this. And the only other time that we've seen that is when we've seen Super Rugby want to make the game more like Rugby League.
And a 20-minute red card and everything. Just on that subject, I mean, immediately raises a question, that game France versus South Africa, and I see Angus Gardner's got the short straw here, because I don't want to be refereeing that game. And I think, the ultimate insult would have been getting Ben O'Keefe to referee it again. Can you imagine the uproar? I wonder how they're going to referee the scrums in that game. And it's going to go back to the normal interpretation, put it in wherever you want to, or are the French going to insist on having it put in properly?
No, it will be refereed as per Angus Gardner's interpretation, which I would expect would be more than what we've seen so far in 2025, which is the weaker team being protected at scrum time. You know, Australia were the only team in the Rugby Championship with a 100% scrum success. Are they the best scrummaging team? You know,
what does 100% scrum success mean? I mean, does it mean they didn't concede a tight head, or what does it mean?
It means that you put the ball in and you kept it.
Okay. So but did South Africa concede a tight head? Ever? Oh, you mean it doesn't have to be a tight head. We just got a free kick against us or anything like that. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
See, I told you my IQ was low.
Yeah. So, but France already has this because in the top 14, you're allowed to do rolling substitutes. You're allowed to take a player off and bring it back on. Now, I think there are nuances to that rule. Like, it might be, I'm going to get someone correct me again, but it might be something along the lines of they can't come back on in the same position. But who's measuring? Who's saying, yes, he hasn't come back on in the same position, but for this play, we have the fullback do the box kick. You know, it's who checks, right? So basically in the top 14, they have rolling subs, which you don't have at test level. So already the French are kind of used to having to play at test level differently to how they play at club level. And, you know, Six Nations champions, so they obviously got the hang of it.
I'm interested in that, just while we're busy with it. I mean, you play the entire season being used to the ball being put in properly and the likes, and then in a test match against South Africa of all teams, the biggest test match probably of the year, if you ask me. And suddenly you have to adjust to not, didn't they shoot themselves in the foot a little bit here?
Yeah, but it's an advantage though.
Why?
Isn't it at test level, as in to not have to do that? It makes it easier, not harder.
Yeah, sure, you're right. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, okay. That's why I talk to you, because you've got all the brains, even though your head fits through your opening on the
We'll
show.
talk about it more when we get to the time. I don't want to use up a future chats, which you have to be very careful in podcasting. You know, don't steal things from yourself to say
from the future. Week. Yeah, no, you're right.
But South Africa are clear favourites for the game against France.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to take you up on that one. I tend to differ, and I know quite a few people that I know and who also differ. We'll see. Let's leave it for them. Let's get back to the URC. Lions, Benetton lost badly. Next up, Scarlets, your team that you said played so badly. So that's sort of the two bad teams playing against each other. What can we expect there?
I would really like it if the Scarlets won. Can we do that?
Really?
We beat them down there last season. So I would very much like to do it again. We played really, really badly in the last game. But everyone's really upset about how the Lions played. But at least they scored points, And they started with their Northern Tour. South African teams are a different proposition when they get down back in their home country. I don't know what to expect, and it could be a really, really bad game of rugby. I'll be honest. These two teams are winless from the opening rounds. I think the Lions have got more like a losing bonus point, which the Scarlets don't have, and that's what's keeping them apart. But yeah, I would just like it if the Scarlets won. Our scrum is really bad. Really, really bad. Really, really bad at the moment. And we don't seem to be having any set plays either. So it's worrying.
Well, seeing that we talk about jerseys on this channel quite often, that Lions jersey, that away jersey, it's horrendous. What do you think of that thing?
But apparently you can't buy it. Rian Lowe mentioned it in his video. He was ranting about how you can't buy this season's Lions jerseys. They're not on the website.
None of them, neither the home or away.
Nope. It's old Lions jerseys from like years ago, and that's it.
They probably can't afford to make them, to sell them. Oh my word.
Yeah.
All right. So
normally what happens is that the kit supplier takes over your retail for you. So when you change kit supplier, normally your online shop and the personnel in your shop and stuff changes because it's the supplier takes over your retail.
Yeah.
Which suits the clubs because that means there's no risk in it for them. So for that not to have happened, it's just very odd.
Sharks Leinster, and if it wasn't for Ethan Hooker showing us all how to do an intercept, the Sharks would also have been scoreless. I mean, that to me was probably the biggest shock of the weekend.
Really? I thought we all knew that the Sharks were a bit crap and that the Leinster are good. So I'm not surprised. What, Sharks are also winless on their Northern Tour?
Mm.
Didn't even beat the Dragons. Sorry. And yeah, if yes, you scored, but it was an intercept. It's better than being nilled, but not much. Like
Yeah.
it's this from a performance point of view, it's the same. So yeah,
I agree.
not great, not great. Of the, I think I worked it out, 8 games that South African franchises have played up north so far this season, they've won 1, which was the Stormers just now. So, but it's not new news to me. We know that the Sharks are a bit crap, and still it remains.
But I mean, they've got all the players, they've got all the talent, they've got all the money. So what's happening there? I mean,
We spoke about it. If it's not the players and it's not the money, must be something else.
must be the Teagle or something.
Yeah, blame them. It's the hot dogs. They must be eating hot dogs like the Lions.
I want to ask you about this Leinster team that played against the Sharks, though. Let's talk about that quickly. Compared to the one that played in South Africa and lost against both the Stormers and the Bulls. You said to me that Leinster team was still a good team, A minus team, I think you called them. So how does this team compare to that team, the two in South Africa?
Slightly better. Well, no, I think a good step better. They brought back a few more internationals, including some Lions, as in British and Irish Lions, came back into the team, which you would expect it being their first home game of the season, especially for the fact that they hadn't won either of their first games. They would have wanted to make a statement. And they're getting warmed up for their big game against Munster this weekend coming, which is the big derby in Ireland. It's like the North-South derby of Ireland. And so I'm not surprised. Yes, it was a better team with much more internationals in it. And it went how I would have expected that game to go.
Do you think Leinster went to South Africa knowing that they'd lose or hoping that they'd win almost? You know, there's a slight difference, but accepting the fact that they're sending a slightly subpar team there and, you know, accepting the losses, especially this early in the season, because last year they won everything right up towards the end. Why this different approach? Was it simply a matter of how the schedule played out, or was it a sort of a calculated risk?
No, I think that they went. I think they would have certainly thought that they could beat the Stormers based on how the Stormers were last year. Last year, they sent like a C team down to South Africa and still beat the Sharks at Kings Park.
I remember.
So, yeah, I think that they picked an appropriate team. They were resting some big players still who were out for a long time with the British and Irish Lions. Ireland didn't have that strenuous of a July Test series. They had Georgia and Portugal. We remember that they put 100 points on Portugal. So no, I think it all makes sense what they've done so far, and but I think probably they went a bit stronger than we all expected for their tour of South Africa, and I think everyone was surprised, particularly at the Stormers result. I think the Bulls result, everyone would have gone, yeah, I can see that happening. But the Stormers result, I think, was the one that shocked
Especially
everybody.
the nulled one. Yeah, the fact that they were nulled. That's quite a shocker. So the Sharks are playing Ulster this weekend. Ulster beat the Bulls. We just talked about that. So in all probability, it's at home now. The Sharks are back in South Africa at least. But Ulster, tough proposition anyway. What are you expecting?
Yes, I would expect that Ulster would beat the Sharks. I think they are a better rugby team than them, and I think they will win. Although, is it definitely up north? Is it?
No,
it's
it's at home. Yeah. It's in Kings Park, yeah.
All right. Okay. Ooh, that does make it a bit different. Okay, fair enough. It'd be a great result for Ulster if they do win it. See how it changes the mentality, this whole north-south thing? I gave such a confident answer when I thought it was one way, and now it's the other way now I'm less sure. But I would say that Ulster are a better rugby team than the Sharks, so the better rugby team should win. However, the really annoying thing about the Sharks is that they are not a very good rugby team, yet they still continuously win. By the way, any Sharks fans in the comments, I'm just being objective of what I have seen so far. It is database analysis. You are 0 from 3 so far in the season, couldn't even beat the Dragons. So there.
But you on that bombshell that the Bulls are only going to be playing the Stormers in March. What are the 3 games that that people should be watching this weekend? And give us your trademark delivery once again.
3 games in the URC that you must watch this weekend. Number 1, Dragons versus Cardiff. So this is the East Wales derby. Now, people from outside Wales might be thinking, why would I watch that? So even some people in Wales might be thinking, why would I watch that? But in Wales, you've got 4 teams, and you've got the West Wales teams, which is Ospreys and Scarlets. You've got the East Wales teams, which is Cardiff and the Dragons. Now, Cardiff have beaten the Dragons something like 19 games in a row. But the Dragons are looking a little bit better this year. A little bit. Don't pay too much attention to their big loss against Glasgow. They rotated heavily with the eyes firmly fixed on this game. Derbies are always worth tuning in for, if nothing else, for understanding the culture of the place and how things go. Cardiff and Newport are very close together. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that in the whole URC, these are the two teams that are closest together geographically. Put it in the comments if you think that that's wrong. But Cardiff are looking to build on a very strong start to the season of 2 losing bonus points out in Munster and 2 home wins. They would like to think that a game against the Dragons would be a banker, but the Dragons are seeking their first win and they would love it if they beat them. Their biggest rivals, the fans would absolutely dine out on it all year long. So that's the first game that you should watch. The second game that you should watch is, of course, the big Irish match of the weekend. Leinster versus Munster. So for South African fans, this is a bit like the North-South derby between the Bulls and the Stormers, except in Ireland. So it's being played at Leinster. I think it's being played at Croke Park. Someone can check. But so it's being played in the big stadium. They're expecting big attendance. And this is the big rivalry. These two do not like each other. It's really like bitter. Like we do not get on.
Like Bulls Stormers.
Yeah, this goes up quite high, even when it gets to international level, when a Leinster player gets picked over a Munster player, and things don't work out, it gets bitter. And the big debate that's been going on for ages now in Irish rugby is the Sam Prendergast versus Jack Crowley at fly half debates. These two will be playing against each other in this game. Whoever comes out on top, that will obviously have loads of ammunition to say that they are the better player and they should be playing 10 for Ireland. Munster don't have a great record in this fixture of recent years, but who can forget in the URC semi or quarter final from a couple of years ago where Jack Crowley dropped a goal to knock Leinster out in one of those famous complacency results. So again, Rugby Heritage, tune in for this one. This is one of the games of club rugby. And then finally, one that I've been told to say is Connacht versus the Bulls. So, over in Galway, Connacht being coached by Stuart Lancaster. We are still yet to gather adequate data on Stuart Lancaster's Connacht to see whether he has made a difference. Meanwhile, Johan Ackermann's Bulls, I still think in that same situation. However, people are starting to be upset with how things are going down in Pretoria. So, after a tough result in Ulster last week, the Bulls will be going to Galway to try and right a few wrongs, whereas Connacht will be trying to shrug off their slightly tepid defeat at the hands of Cardiff last week. That one is at 7:45 on Friday, so annoyingly at the same time as the Dragons Cardiff, but dual screen it, you'll be fine. I expect that the Bulls will kind of get their act together and win this one. They won it last season, so I'm backing the Bulls for this one, but only just.
Okay. One thing I wanted to say about that Cardiff game, remember, Tinus de Beer plays for Dragons after he played for Cardiff last year.
So yes, it's the Tinus de Beer derby.
And he must have been practicing his drop goals.
Actually, there's a lot of players who have played for both teams, especially on the Dragons side, who have played for both. Yeah, so Tane Basham, Welsh international, played for Dragons, has gone to Cardiff. Seb Davis, also Welsh international, we forget, was at Cardiff, has gone to Dragons, as has Thomas Young. So, yeah, lots of cross-pollination there, shall we say.
Yeah, I was thinking about what hospital pass question I was going to ask you, and I had one, but I can't remember what it is now. So I'm going to give you, a bit of a break this week, so if you don't mind. So let's put a bow on this one and wrap it up. Thanks, you. That was interesting. As always, looking forward to this.
Okay, no worries, mate. Speak next week.
Cheers, man. Thanks.
This is the Loose Pass Rugby Podcast, only on Megaphone Rugby.